Hey, another Class D amplifier. This is the Fossi Audio V3. Hey, everybody, Stereo Azimuth. And I did a video on this before the Aiyima A07, which I really like, which is currently now in my bedroom powering a couple of bookshelf B&W speakers, some like 5 1/4 B&W speakers, and works great. I mean, for my TV, it's awesome. I did have it hooked up to these, if I can point to my JBL T20s, and they work fine as well. They work really great. Powered them much more than I thought they would, especially with the op amp change. Because they come with the NE5532s, like both of these do, which we'll get to in a second. But the main purpose of the video is I want to talk about this guy. I want to talk about the Fossi Audio V3, which is basically they have the same TI chip, same power TI chip, and they're basically almost configured the same. So let's take a quick look at a quick breakdown. You can see here the front, there is no power switch. The volume control acts as a double, like power switch and volume control. So some people like that, some people don't. Doesn't really bother me that much. This right here, you just have input, and then you have the tiny, these tiny speaker terminals, which work fine with banana plugs if you have banana. And then you also have your DCN. You also have a pre-out on here as well if you want to use the same with this. So basically set up, nothing really fancy here. And the boxes, the Aiyima is a little bit more narrow, slightly more narrow. There's the Fossi V3 is a little bit wider, but it's also a little bit shorter. So you can see there how big they are, but they're roughly about the same size. I mean, they're really, really close to about the same size. So let's get into what about the internals? What about the internals? So I'm not going to take it apart and waste all that time. People have already done that. So let's take a look right quick. So this is the Aiyima. You can see here, the TI chips are underneath the heatsink. You have pop noise prevention circuits. You have your op amps, the NE5532s. There's two of them, so they are the 2-channel versions. And then you have the ring inductance inductors here, and a couple of caps on the filter, and then just out. The Fossi has slightly, when you look at it, it has got the filter, it doesn't have all these big inductors. What you see here in the middle between these two capacitors is brown things in the middle. Those are the actual inductors. And then in front of that are the Aiyima, the red Aiyima caps. There's two sets of them. There's a big square one, and then a little narrow one in front of that for the speaker outs. It also, it has bigger capacitors. There's some, power caps on the power rails, and they are a little bit bigger. Both of them are really tight, where you can fit the op amps. So some people have used, Sparkos, and have been able to get those, Sparkos, those big dual ones in there. But really, you got to push the kind of the capacitors that are in there sort of out of the way, and it's really sort of out there. There's really not a lot of room once you get inside there. So forget some of the Burleson ones, the big tall one, because the case, unless you want to cut a hole in the case and have it stick out. But the first thing I'll talk about is just the sound quality between the two. Even though they're using the same chip, it seems to me the V3, the actual gain, the pre-gain that you get before the amp, is actually a lot lower. So when you have these up, I can have the volumes all the way up, have the source the same, the V3 will be noticeably quieter. It's not that it doesn't have less power, it's just that there's less gain. There's less like voltage gain. So just keep that in mind if you really want a loud amplifier. This one, the V3, I think is going more for like refined quality rather than just like brute power. So, and I did try it with the different power sources. I have a 35 volt power supply, and I got the 48 volt the upgraded power supply that you can get with that, which is supposedly supposed to like, up your amount of amps that you can have. And I tried them both, and I really didn't find that much quality difference between the two. I actually like would listen to one and then like swap the power to try to see like, and there was a little more refinement with the higher power, but I didn't really think that it was like, that huge of a difference between the two like power supplies. Like maybe there was a slight perceived difference, but it wasn't, to me it wasn't like a breaker. Like if I was only stuck with the lower power supply, I wouldn't be so concerned with it. But there was just a slight edge, especially like in the bass, where there was a little bit more sort of refinement in sort of the bass notes, but that was really about it. There's really not much difference between the power supplies, to me anyway. So it's not like I plugged in this one, the big power supply, to the V3, and then all of a sudden it got like huge amounts of gain to match the A07. So the one weird thing that I found out is that, though, that they like sort of like different op amps. The op amp that I liked for the A07. Oh, the other thing about the V3 is the V3 also sounded more like sort of darker, sort of there was more like low end, less there was less high end air and more just smooth, refined sound. So if you were to pick between these two, which one you like better, which one, the A07, let me see if I can get these lined up correctly to the camera. The A07, this one is more going to be like sort of brute force, all around like amplifier. Like it's very sort of generic sort of sound. Gonna give you plenty of power, almost too much, where if you're actually listening, you're gonna be on like this side of the pot. For this one is more refined sounding, less sort of bitey, less sort of air, more sort of laid back sort of sound, and not as much power, and you're probably going to be more upper end in the volume to listen. So that's just my take on both of those. Now let's get to op amps. This one, both of them with the NE 5532, just, I mean, harsh, flat, grainy, like all the terrible words that I would come up with for that. I mean, it'll work, but if you want a better sound, more that gives you more like deeper sound stage, more sort of like details and less sort of grain, and more like a refined, more higher end sound, more hi-fi sound. The one I liked for the A07 was the OPA 2107. Okay, now both these op amps are expensive, but like I tried a bunch of op amps that were cheaper, and that where really price doesn't matter to me unless you start getting into some of the higher end like discrete ones. And then I'm like, well, you're really paying like two Sparkos, you're really paying for like as much as the amp as you would itself. So that's where it's like, do I really want to spend as much as I paid for the amp as I do on the op amps? And they really can have a lot of effect on the sound, so that's really like up to you. But I found, and I actually had another friend that had Sparkos and tried some of the other ones I tried, and he rather agreed. He was like, well, yeah, I really probably didn't need to spend that much on those. The Sparkos only gave me slightly more like advantage and than these, and these are like half as much. So the OPA 2107, I mean, it's gonna run about $20 a piece, so you need like two of them. I happen to have some like laying around that I wasn't using in something, and they just sounded really great. Another ones that you can use is the AD746. That was another one that gave it a little bit more sort of took away sort of the top end a little bit of the A07 and gave it a little more low end kick. For this one, for the V3, the 2107 sounded okay. It sounded great. They didn't sound as good in the A07. They sounded decent, but they really didn't have like a clear advantage. The ones I really liked for this one is the AD826, and those are also kind of expensive. I mean, they're like another $20 a pop op amp. And those are really op amps that are used for video and for also AD applications, analog to digital applications. And that's basically what a Class D amp is doing. You're taking an analog signal and going into a sort of a digital format per se. And that's why I think that they work so well. They're very fast settling op amp. And I think that they sounded really great. The AD826 did not sound quite as, it sounded okay in the A07, and you feel free to give it a try. I just think that the OPA 2107, because this one is so forward, and the OPA 2107 gave it a little bit more laid backness to it, and so therefore, and that's why I like op amps. To me, are not really about like, well, what's the best op amp? It's like, what's the best op amp in the whatever that it's going in, because whatever that it's going in is already going to have so much personality and so much going with it already, that you're just trying to match the sound or whatever. So yeah, both of them do have the sockets where you can swap them out. So feel free to put whatever that you want in both of them. I will tell you that the popular OPA 1656 were unstable in both of them, so don't even worry about giving those a try. But you can try others that are in the SOIC size, OPA 1612, OPA 1692, stuff like that. But the newer CMOS ones I wouldn't really try. So that's about my spiel. So this one I'm actually using now in my desktop rig that I really like, because I like the more laid back sound, like for my JBL speakers, which can be a little bit more forward, and my B&W speakers really like all the power and stuff like that they come with the A07. So yeah, so I think that there's these new TI chips, this new whatever that it is, it's on this list right here, this TPA 3255. They both use both of those. Amazing chip. I think TI just nailed it, and if you have the right stuff around it, then it can sound really great. So that's my take on all of it. Please feel free to comment if you've got more op amp suggestions, or if you guys hear something with power supplies, or feel free to hit me up with questions or whatever. We'll talk to you guys later. See you later.